Hey everybody, this is First Warning Storm Team Chief Meteorologist Brad Panovich. Quick update on Irma. I know a lot of folks watching the Panthers game here in the Carolinas. Hopefully all the friends and family down in Florida are safe right now. They are getting absolutely clobbered. With a Category 3 storm with its second landfall near Naples. It made landfall earlier today in Key West as a Category 4. The secondary landfall has been as a Category 3. The winds in Naples have been insane. At the municipal airport, there was a wind gust to 142 miles per hour. Now, what's scary about this storm is once the storm center moves on, the surge is actually going to go up significantly on the backside. And the reason we're going to see that is because on the backside of the storm is actually the southwest wind, which is going to be very, very strong. So all those bays and inlets that you've been seeing all over Facebook and Twitter that have gone down 5-6 feet, they're actually going to come up about 10 to 15 feet. So all that water has to come rushing back in. So as the center moves off in this direction, remember, the wind blowing like this has pushed the water out of the bays. Now that water comes rushing back, and it's going to be much, much higher than when it was earlier before it went out. A little wider view just to show the impacts eventually moving towards the Carolinas, mainly in the form of clouds and some winds today, but the rain shield is really expanding off to the north of this system, and it's going to be heading our way. Here's a look at the local radar, and look at all the tornado warnings. That's a whole nother threat that we might be dealing with here in the Carolinas by this time tomorrow. Winds, again, the wind gusts have been over 120, 130 miles an hour, but you see some of the sustained winds around 100, 102, even well east of the center. In fact, Miami, which everyone for some reason thought, oh, because the cone shifted west, Miami wasn't going to get hit. That was totally wrong. They had 100-mile-an-hour winds, and 5-6 foot storm surge came into downtown Miami, cranes falling off buildings. That's the thing about these storms. You cannot focus on the center. The hurricane force winds extend out over 100 miles, and the tropical storm force winds are now extending out almost 400 miles from the center. So the impacts are widespread feelings of impacts, I should say, I'll spit it out, across the entire area, even well east of the center. And that's why as the storm gets closer to us, don't focus on where the cone is, because we're going to see impacts well to the east. Here is the 5 o'clock advisory. Hot off the presses. You can see winds are 110 miles per hour right now, making it a Category 2 storm, but just by 5 miles per hour. That's why these categories are misleading. Pressure 938 millibars. The forward speed has picked up a little bit. It's moving due north now at about 14 miles per hour. I actually expect that speed to pick up tonight into tomorrow. It's going to move towards Fort Myers and Sarasota here in the next 2 hours, and then right across Tampa Bay. And there will be a big surge in Tampa Bay as well, and then move up to the Big Bend area there of Florida there as it moves towards areas just to the south of the Tallahassee, and then into southern Georgia, and then into Alabama as a tropical storm. There'll be widespread wind damage in there because of trees and power lines. Now you see the circulation moving pretty far to our west, but don't let your guard down. We're going to see widespread rain here and likely some big-time tornado threats tomorrow at some point. Let's break down all of the different advisories. Almost the whole state of whole state of Florida, is under a hurricane warning. We've got tropical storm warnings all the way to Atlanta, Charleston, even into parts of Alabama, and a tropical storm watch into Tennessee. These inland watches and warnings are now issued inland because you could experience the same type of impacts of wind and rain that we see at the coast. So that's why you're seeing those. Now that's just the tropical advisories, hurricane, tropical storm. We've got some flood watches as well in effect for our area. These are in for areas around the foothills and into the mountains. And the reason we've got those flood watches there, we're going to see southeast winds, and anywhere it interacts the mountains, that eastern and southeastern facing slopes, the air will literally get lifted up, and we'll see heavy rain develop in many locations on the eastern and southeastern facing slopes of the North Carolina mountains. So big time flood threat there, landslides possible, a lot of trees could come down. Then we've got the high wind warnings and wind advisories. Cleveland County, you have a high wind warning where wind gusts could be close to 50 miles an hour. For the Charlotte area and the rest of our area, we've got a wind advisory with gusts to 40, sustained around 25, 30 miles an hour at times tomorrow. I think those winds will be pretty gusty at times, especially tomorrow night into Tuesday. So the threats for our area, let's break it down for you here. This is what I'm thinking as far as impacts for our area. That includes the Charlotte Metro into the mountains of our viewing area. Wind threat right on the threshold of medium because it will be gusty enough that some trees will come down. Rain, pretty heavy rain at times, flash flooding in the mountains. Tornado and power outages a little bit lower, though. The tornado threat is one of those kind of wild cards that we're going to have to keep an eye on tomorrow, because I do think we'll have the potential for a few tornadoes. And just to show you, the Storm Prediction Center already has a risk out for Florida today, obviously, actually a high risk for tornadoes for the coastal section, eastern coast of Florida. And then tomorrow, into tomorrow night, now this goes through about 2 a.m. Tuesday, you can see the threat for tornadoes will expand up into the Charlotte area, just to our south, and then a medium threat, down towards Charleston and Columbia, down to Savannah. So the threat for tornadoes is going to be there. And even on Tuesday, we could see some tornadoes in eastern North Carolina as the circulation is still going to be to our west. So you can see we're still going to have impacts here in the Carolinas with this track well to the west. You can really get lulled into a false sense of security by focusing in on just that line track. Here are the wind gusts I'm expecting overnight into tomorrow. You see the winds by tomorrow evening start picking up. Could see some gusts to 40. Notice how the gusts get higher as we go into Monday night. Some of the gusts could be close to 40, 45 miles an hour from Charlotte south. And if you look carefully in the mountains, you can see some of these gusts getting closer to about 50, maybe 60 miles an hour. I think the mountaintops, the summits, will have some of the highest wind gusts. Maybe Grandfather Mountain, Mount Mitchell could see a gust to 70. It wouldn't be shocking. And then into Tuesday morning, the winds are still howling, and then they start to calm down as we go into Tuesday afternoon. That's when we'll see the threat for the heavy rain and wind kind of move out. Let me show you real quickly the storm impacts and timing. This will give you a good idea on when things are going to move in. Rain could start tomorrow morning, but it's really going to be in the afternoon and evening that the rain ramps up. That's when the highest gusts will be around as well. 15 to 30 mile per hour winds, gusts to 40, and then some trees and limbs will come down. You're probably thinking those wind gusts aren't that high, but when you have those gusts for 6 to 8 hours at a time, you're likely going to work over enough trees, and as the ground gets moist from the rain, some trees will come over. I mean, we have trees come down here with light wind all the time, so I would not be shocked if some trees come down. Isolated power outages and isolated tornadoes, certainly something we're going to have to watch tomorrow afternoon. And I'll tell you why, because we'll look at the futurecast. We start dry tomorrow. Here comes the light rain, periods of rain, even some heavy downpours rolling into the region. And then notice into Tuesday morning. This is early Tuesday morning, 2 o'clock in the morning. Some heavy rain bands set up, and some of these, especially down in here, could have the potential to have some tornadoes in them into early Tuesday. So it could be a long night tomorrow night into Tuesday morning for a lot of us. Keeping an eye on those rain bands. Those rain bands will be around on Tuesday as well, but they'll start to break up the later we get into the day. And by Wednesday, we're actually seeing some better weather. So we'll be doing cut-ins throughout the evening. I'll be going into football. We have NBC coverage on right now. The news is coming up at 6 o'clock, and we'll have complete updates and more information coming up tonight at 11. Please keep everyone down in Florida in your thoughts and prayers. It is a big storm for them. They are going to be clobbered here for the next day and a half until that storm gets north and they have some time for that water to go down. Join me at 6 o'clock. Sarah Fortner's in here as well. She'll be with me, and we'll have some tag team coverage of Hurricane Irma as it moves towards the Carolinas.